Welcome to Break Magazine. 2018 is here. It's January. That means one thing. January means Dakar. We're here because we like Dakar and we think you like Dakar too. So we're going to have a little preview. Going to run down who we think is the hot tickets. There's always one guy that doesn't turn his phone off.
It's usually you.
Yeah, so we're going to have a little rundown of who we think's going to do well, who we think's not going to do so well. We're going to have a little look at the route and discuss our different strongly formed opinions. I'm joined here by the man who tried to put his finger up, Cy P, Simon Hewitt, and Neil Hawker.
Hello.
All of us are massive rally fans.
So a little bit excited.
A little bit excited. I'm excited. I think the next month of my life.
I'm depressed.
Why is that?
Not riding it.
So, first things first. Let's start with who you think's going to be the winner, or who the contenders to at least end up in that top spot are.
Where to start?
Where to start?
Well, in MotoGP they've got that little subclass of people they call the aliens. You've got your Marquez, your Lorenzo, your Dovi, your Valentino Rossi, etc. And in rally you've got the same group of guys, but I think it's a bit bigger in rally, to be honest, especially the last couple of years. Anyway, before it was just Cyril Dupre and Mark Coma, but there's a long list of guys in there now.
Yeah, totally. I still don't think it's as big as it was. I think 4 years ago, when Cyril finished, anybody could win. I think I looked at the entry list and there was like 20 guys that I was like, well, any of those could have a good run and win.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's like that anymore. I think the last 2 Dakars and the last 2 World Championship seasons have showed that there's maybe 6. I think
there's a good
6 guys.
Good 10 people who can.
I think there's
solid.
6 guys that I look at in that list. For me, the first one is Sam because he's won.
Yeah.
That's kind of a good indicator,
Yeah.
generally. The second one is Toby because he's won.
Yeah.
That's Toby Price. But he is out of shape. He was injured multiple times this year. He looks like me. That's not good if you're a professional athlete. It's not good. And the other 4, for me anyway, are Bereda.
Yeah.
Because he's like 5th on the all-time wins list already.
Yeah, arguably the fastest guy.
Yeah, he's arguably the fastest guy on a rally bike in the last 10 years.
Yeah, on any day. But also just got back from injury.
But maybe that's a good thing for him.
Yeah.
Because a slower Bereda is a less crashy Bereda.
Yeah.
The other one I've got written down, Matthias Volkner, 2nd last year. He's got to be in it. You know, he's had some amazing results this year. He's been really up there in the World Championship. I don't think anyone argues about that.
Mm-hmm.
You look like you've got something to say.
No, I think you've basically got the whole factory KTM team and the whole I think the whole factory team, Honda factory team, are now at last ready.
Apart from Michael Met, he does not have the speed to win.
And Brabeck yet.
I think Brabeck's biggest problem is he can win stages, but he's not a rally racer. He's a desert racer that turns up and then
Dakar, that's true.
turns up for Dakar and one other race, and
Yeah.
the rest of them spend a year practicing in the desert, learning to navigate better, working on their bike. And Brabeck's a one-time thing because Honda need an American there. That's it really, and he's very good, but I don't have him in his list of winners. But you're right. I think Quintanilla, Benavides.
Yeah, Quintanilla's obviously world champion. He's on the Husqvarna. He's kind of got the whole.
And he's got gold exhaust. Anyone that's got gold exhaust, like they've got to be in it to win it.
I think also he's got the whole team riding for him. You know, in the Husqvarna camp, he is the guy. Whereas in the KTM camp, they're only going to decide the guy once one of their guys starts to become the guy. A little bit, and I think that puts you in a very strong mental position when everyone's there for you, and he's current world champion, and he's proved he's now got the outright speed. Another big thing for me, it's been coming since 2009. Prior to 2009, there wasn't really any South American competitors. There was the odd guy, and obviously Chaleco's the sort of standout one from that when it was the old Dakar. But since it's moved to South America, we've seen it. every year we've been there's been a gaggle of South Americans now getting closer to the front, and he's the lead guy for that. And we've seen the crowds there as well. The 4.5 million people out there cheering for you, and every time you pull into a petrol station, getting mobbed by your fans.
Yeah, that's got to be a good feeling.
That's pretty
Yes,
massive.
I think Benavides is in that list because of that as well.
Yeah.
But also,
Totally.
the race goes straight through where he grew up riding.
Yeah.
And that is a
Yeah.
massive advantage for him
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's his
yeah.
home ground, and he doesn't do that for Quintanilla. He doesn't have that home advantage as much because it doesn't go that side of the border.
Yeah.
But also Benavides has showed his speed is insane when he wants to turn it on.
Yeah.
And he's
Quite
another
happy to
year
crash
older.
though.
He is quite happy to crash, but he's another year older.
Yep.
Another year better. I for me, it's those 6. I don't see anyone else. When you look down the list, there's no one else that's proven with the ability to win stages and put it together for a whole race.
Yeah, but it is
And
massively,
in shape.
I agree with Side. It's massively different to how it was a few years ago when we were definitely all sitting here going, there's 1 or 2, maybe 3 that you're going to put winning stages and on
Or
the
even
podium.
on the podium, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas now, I think the podium, getting to the podium and winning are different things.
Yeah, look at the guys that we haven't even mentioned that were 3rd and 4th last year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, moving
and
on to
and
that...
still fighting for seconds on the last day last year.
Yeah. And moving on to that, there is a little gaggle of guys who have got great speed but aren't stage winners, existing stage winners, but they're going to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
So for me, those are Svitko, Gerard Fares, 3rd last year, Svitko 2nd the year before.
Yeah.
Juan Pedrero on the Sherco. I mean, his downside is that
He's on the Sherco.
yeah, the Sherco's it's clearly a good bike,
Yeah.
but it isn't a KTM. And it isn't a factory team in the way that they have the depth. I think that's their problem.
Yeah.
Kaimi,
Yeah. 7th
Yeah.
last year.
7th last
Yeah.
year, some good results this year.
Yeah.
People seem to think he's really, really got something. And Antoine Mayo. I look at all of those guys and go, maybe...
He's done a bit anyhow, man.
He's done a bit, yeah. But I think they're good for a solid top 10. Out of those, who are you picking out of those 10 guys, 11 guys, who are you picking to be a podium?
I know you disagreed with me before, but I think Mayo can win it. I'm going a bit of a wild card there that Mayo can win it.
I want like a solid top 3. I want you to sit here and go, he's going to win, he's going to be second,
Mayo's going to win.
Mayo's going to win. Who's going second?
Then
If you don't know who Antoine Mayo is, he won like 5 World Enduro Championships. He's quite good.
And
good.
He's maybe as fast as us if you put all of our talent together. Then
He's done a little
multiplied
bit.
it
He's done
a
a bit.
lot.
And what happened on his first Dakar 2 years ago?
He went really fast. He won a stage and then he broke his wrist.
Yeah, he broke his wrist on the second last day while escorting Toby Price to the finish.
Yeah.
So he's got unbelievable speed.
Yeah.
And he's going to be hungry, and he's been away from it.
Yeah.
And
He's been away from it for 18 months.
Yeah.
He didn't race
I
around
know,
bike for
I know you all
18 months.
disagree, but I'm just to be controversial, I'm throwing him on the
Okay.
table.
Second place?
I think that's where it gets super difficult, because for me, I think Quintanilla, Toby, and Sam are all fighting for those other places. Yeah, the only other wild point you have to throw in there is because there is so many of them, so close in speed, and if you listen to any of the stuff Toby said about his crash last year, I think it really highlights it, is that those guys are pushing on every single stage for 1 minute here, 1 minute there now, which again, in the Mark and Cyril days that didn't happen, and Toby admits himself that day he crashed, he got information from a CP saying he was however many minutes down on that stage, so he pushed harder for the second, for the next section of the stage, and I think that just means that for sure, out of those 6 guys you mentioned, definitely 2 of them are coming back in an ambulance. I think on an average thing, so that's what's going to decide. Any of those guys are 100% if you just go on speed or on the podium or in the top 5. But there's just going to be a couple of them, and I don't think you can predict that. We know when you crash on rally, it's not like crashing in the forest up here. When you make a small mistake, that when you're messing around with your mates in the forest is a little dab, and worst case a bit of a bruise on your ankle or something. You know, when you have that little mistake in the desert, when you're high speed and the ground's hard, it's very difficult to
Can
get
I
up
just
from
get
those
something?
falls.
Can I just? I've seen something earlier.
Oh dear. Oh yeah. Good
And
example.
I'm not sure if you can see this, but
Camera's there now.
that's
That's because it was upside down.
that's
You
meant to
demonstrate.
be pointing at you. So this was Lel's. Yeah, as a present.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, I think that's the bit that's hard to measure, is which one of those guys is going to crash and not be there, because on speed, I don't think you can split them now. There's so many. So
I think you can pull. I mean, Dakar's a different story to the rest of the World Championship.
massively different story.
It's so much longer. It's so much harder.
Yeah.
So much more that can go wrong.
Yeah, another one of us turned our phones off.
And
Yeah, so for me, but the World Championship as a whole, if you take all of those events and put them together, I think it does say a lot. And from that, Quintanilla is insanely consistent,
yeah.
and he's won 2 World Championships in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he lives somewhere where he can deal with the altitude and the temperature
Yeah.
changes. And
Volkner has also been very consistent and had a
Yeah.
very good season.
Yeah.
So has Benavides.
Benavides, yeah, I was going to
And
say
so
that.
is Sam. But I think Benavides is wild. And I think
Yeah.
those three, Sam, Volkner and Quintanilla, I think you can count on those guys being there at the end. Bar an extreme scenario, for me, those are the three that you're like, I mean, I'd love to say Bereda, but the dude, like,
track record's
what are we,
not so
like,
great.
10 Dakars in now, and he's won 10, 12 stages,
At
and
least. So, yeah.
and he
Yeah.
still hasn't won the race.
Yeah.
And I think that's indicative. I don't want to say it because I'd love him to win. I think he's a really cool guy. But I don't think he will. I don't think he ever will. I think Benavides has more chance than Bereda. Now, I might eat my hat in 3 weeks' time. I'd rather not. Hats don't taste great. But for me, the podium, I'm gonna put Volkner on the top. I think he's just got that edge.
He's ready.
I think he's ready. No. I think he's ready. I think Quintanilla will be second and Sam will be third. That's my top 3.
It's not like
very
you
safe.
to be opinionated,
No,
though, is it?
well, the point of this is to be opinionated. The point of this conversation is to be opinionated.
But I gave you my opinion. You don't believe my opinion.
But
Can we speak in like half an hour?
Maybe we should bring the baby in. Might have a better opinion than
I
you.
don't think so. So, sorry about that.
All right. So anyway, you've made your stand. I've made my stand.
Mr. Hewitt,
Because also the other thing is, I say Mio's
you
going to
haven't made
win.
your stand. You just said
No, no, because you're going on about the podium, but I'm saying that Mio's going to win, and after whoever comes second in Dakar, nobody ever gives us a shit.
I
So,
don't give a shit. I
so
don't give
it's
a
only
shit.
about first place.
I don't give a shit that you don't give a shit. Give us a top 3.
Mio, Quintanilla, and then I'm going to put a Honda on this. I'm going to go Breivik.
Bold.
What about you?
I'm gonna go Bereda for the win.
Nice.
Only because I've done it every year.
And what's happened every year?
4
So.
years.
If you roll the dice enough, eventually it's gonna turn a 6. So.
Not if that dice is weighted.
That sounds like a terrible gamble.
That's why I don't
Apart
gamble.
from the fact he's been injured, which maybe makes him calmer.
Maybe, yeah.
He quite famously has a bit of a rocky relationship in Honda as well.
Yeah, for sure. But I kind of, the rumour is at the moment that Paulo Gonçalves is out. Is that
Yeah.
true now?
Yeah, which makes Bereda single number 1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he'll have 3 fast guys kind of riding for him, unless Benavides kind of steals the show in the first week, in which case Honda will share the water carrier duties. But Beretta for the win for me. Second, Quintanilla, and then third. Yeah, there's always a wild card on the podium. 2 years ago was Fitco, last year was Fares, and this one I'm probably gonna go Kaimi on the podium.
Yeah, nice. That's probably a more realistic prediction than picking 3 factory guys to be there. What about yourself?
Toby for the win.
Nice.
No pressure. I don't think he's got the pressure. Looks like he's just having a good time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. He's
Strong-
been down the pie shop.
Strong mullet. I just like.
He's been on the minor.
Yeah, he's. I think he's just he's going there.
To have fun.
Yeah, exactly that. So he's gonna come out on top purely because he's not gonna push like you said he did and make the mistake. But I'm going for a little bit of a. I'm going for Johnny Albert up there as well. I don't know why.
On the Gas
On
KTM.
Gas, yeah.
I don't know if anyone's seen this, but Gas are like a Spanish off-road brand, and they have entered a team this year. Quite often they've used their own bike, and this year they've entered a Gas that's remarkably similar to a KTM. In fact, on the website, it even says model KTM 450 Rally.
Brilliant.
No,
But it's red.
But it does say Gas
It looks
on
good.
it.
It looks great. No, I'm going Toby, Quintanilla, and I am going. I'm going Svitko. I want him up
For
there.
the number 3.
Yeah.
Why is that now? Why do you want to see Svitko do well?
Because if he comes third, I can say I beat him on a stage.
Neil did beat Stefan Svitko in one stage. Svitko got lost.
He's an amazing rider. So
And
I've
he's
been watching.
insanely fit.
Yeah,
He
that's
is
what
so
I'm saying.
strong.
So when all the other riders have been training at altitude in the sun, he was in
Wrestling Bears.
Wrestling Bears in Slovakia. There, and it just I've been watching all their social media, all the build up. Been well into watching all that, and for me, like seeing him train is like, yeah, he's strong,
beast.
solid. He's a beast.
And I don't know if you've got it on your agenda, but another massive thing I think you always have to think about is the team setup, like I've already said about with Quintanilla. And of all the privateers, Svitko does it the best. You know, he's full privateer, but he's got such a slick setup, and it's all wrapped around him again. You know, he's got his 2 best mates and his dad and his brother there, I think, isn't it? All looking after him.
Solid.
We got
Real
5
nice.
guys. Yeah,
5 guys.
one
Real
van,
nice.
5 guys.
Yeah, real nice,
2
clean
vans,
setup.
sorry.
Yeah. And
Sounds like a movie.
and back to your thing with Honda as well. I think, you know, we talked about it every year with Honda, where the reason they haven't beaten KTM has been not about their riders, it's been about the team management and the team setup. And they've got some changes to that again this year now, and they've kind of probably got a bit more proven guys running the team.
Yeah.
You know, we know our friend Pedro Bianchi Prado, Portuguese guy's assistant team manager there this year, and he's, you know, bringing whatever 12 Dakars worth of actual
super switched on
finishes.
guy.
experience and finishes and
Never
stuff
not
like
finished.
that. Yeah. So, you know, that's a big, you know, that's probably a bigger change for me than the way the guys are riding.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and even though Svitko doesn't have a water carrier, you can bet that he'll have an agreement with someone a bit further back in the pack.
Can we talk about the water carrier thing? Because people might not.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, I found it interesting because I only really found out sort of from you guys.
Yeah.
But I didn't know most of the top riders have got what they call a water carrier.
Yeah, so their purpose is basically to provide parts and assistance to the top riders when they have a problem.
And this will be another competitor, usually a bit further back in the field.
Yeah, so there'll be a guy who's like a really good rider still, but like a solid guy that they can trust to be there and finish.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not in it to win it. So like Yamaha's water carrier is Rodney Faggoter, super fast Australian desert racer, but not interested in trying to win.
Mm-hmm.
Honda's is Michael
But
Mayer.
has finished top 15.
Yeah.
That
Like
kind
he's
of level,
he's
you know.
super fast. He's won
Yeah,
Australian Safari.
a couple of times.
Yeah, so he
One
knows how to.
thing.
Yeah, he knows how to ride a bike. Michael Met,
Yeah.
the same for Honda. KTM don't really seem that interested in it anymore.
They won't have one in the factory team, but they will have someone further back in the pack.
Yeah. And Honda have typically used Honda South America team in that role as well. Yeah.
That's how water carriers work.
That is how water carriers work. So now we're going to talk about
Haven't talked about any Yamaha riders.
We haven't talked about any
Yeah.
Yamaha riders because I think they fit into a different category at the moment. Partially because the Yamaha's been a terribly terrible bike for the last few years,
Yeah.
and they've got it better. It
Yeah.
was better last year.
Yeah.
It proved that, but unfortunately, in that environment, bike does matter a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
A lot.
You've seen
A
that.
lot,
Nobody's
little
won on an enduro bike ever.
bit. Exactly.
For a reason. And so the next category that I've kind of picked out is guys that are potential stage winners. Like, they're not in the hunt to win the overall. They're probably going to be in and around the top 10, top 15, but they're guys that you look at on paper and you go, I would put money on him winning the stage. So my first one, Ricky Brabeck.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's a solid bet. He won a
Yeah.
stage last
Yeah,
year.
he's won one
He's
already.
really
Yeah.
good. He knows how to race.
Rapid.
Yeah.
Second one, first Yamaha rider we've talked about,
Gobi.
Adrian Van Beveren.
Yeah, Van Beveren.
You know,
Solid.
he's got better every year. I think he went 7th the first year. He was maybe 4th last
Yeah.
year
By seconds. To,
by seconds.
Yeah.
But I don't think he quite has that edge yet. He hasn't shown it in the other races that he has the edge to beat those other guys. But there will be a stage.
He's been
The first-
training hard with Sam.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
the first
He's all
5 stages of Dakar or 4 stages of Dakar, all
all
sand
dunes.
dunes.
Yeah.
The dude is a legend in the sand. He's
And
going to win one of those
and he
stages.
pulls the most epic wheelies.
Yeah, he
so
pulls
we're
wheelies.
going to stage just so
Style
we get
for
to see his
miles.
wheelies. Yeah.
We've talked about him once already. I think Anton Mayo is
Yeah.
going to win a stage. If he doesn't win a stage, again, I'm going to lose a lot of hats. And my last one that I've picked to win a stage, and this is a bit off the wall, but maybe Mohamed Al Balushi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you threw that out there. Good luck with that one.
He's really good in the sand,
He is good in the sand.
and
yeah.
maybe he doesn't have the raw speed of the other guys, but if he has a good day in those first days in Peru, that's his opportunity. As soon as they leave there, I don't think he's got any chance of even being in the top 40.
Yeah.
But in the sand there, you know, his results in the UAE rally this year were pretty good. He was right with all those factory guys. It's worth watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know, you could easily see him pop up on the edge of the top 5, I think.
Yeah.
On one of those stages. Once they leave Peru, it is not happening. But in Peru, I think he's got a shot. He's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Totally.
You know, and if he just has a good day and he's coming from the back of the pack and he's got tracks to follow, he doesn't really have to navigate that much.
Yeah.
Kind of the cards are in his favour.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's probably not going to happen, but it definitely, I think, could.
That's at least one hat you've got to eat anyway, so
Yeah.
that's good.
I'm not eating a hat on that one. I haven't got enough hats for a start. So,
Another Yamaha rider, I think, Desaultre.
Yeah.
He won one last year, but I think he then got a speeding
he
fine
did,
Wow.
yeah.
and then lost it because of that.
That's right.
But that's,
And I'd love to put him in those guys who are like, oh yeah, he's solid for a top 10, except his best finish is 78th. So he's not
Is
solid
that
for
right?
a top 10. He's
I
like,
didn't
his
know that.
results in Dakar, his final results are shocking.
Desaultre,
They are awful.
really
Awful. For someone so good and how high everyone holds him, and he's like,
Yeah.
the French love him,
Yeah.
everybody says he's got loads of talent,
Okay.
and he clearly has. He's
Good in
won a
sand.
stage,
Yeah.
great in the sand, results are awful. Awful.
Ah,
I finished better than him.
What?
I'm just saying, that's not good, mate.
What
You're on a
about
factory bike, and I can't ride.
what about another random one then? Joachim Rodrigue on
Yeah,
the hero.
On the hero,
Just
he could be a hero.
he's getting faster.
He's very quick.
He's fast, and again late in the rally when maybe people aren't pushing so hard, often happens.
The
And
hero's
late-
got to make it till late in the rally.
But brand new bike, it looks awesome. Let's see.
Mhm.
And also late in the rally, they've got those round Cordoba WRC type stages, very similar to the fast tracks in Portugal.
It did well in Morocco
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
So, and it
And it'd be
looks
cool
much
to-
better than the bike they were on.
yeah, it'd just be cool to see that brand on now what is kind of looks more like a bike they've built rather than
Oh, it looks
rather
like
than a
theirs
bike
from
that
the
they
ground
put
up.
stickers
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I think that's cool. Be awesome to see.
what about young Benavides?
Young Benavides,
Yeah.
the other one.
Luciano. Yeah. Well, they've given him a factory bike for a reason. He's going to be quick, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's,
Yeah.
I think he's gonna. Don't want to say it because I don't. Want to, but he's either gonna do really well or crash his brains out.
Like, just like his brother.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
For a stage win. Yeah.
Liar, maybe, but it's got to be kind of a bit of a wild card day.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
A
the,
bit of a
Sky
salt,
goes back.
yeah,
Yeah.
salt flats day.
but
sort of.
but in those kinds of situations, she keeps ahead and she'll
She does,
she'll finish
yeah.
well.
Mm.
She needs a little bit of luck, I think.
A bit
Yeah.
of flash flooding or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which there is a good potential of that.
Yeah.
And then, so the last bit with the kind of riders that you can get solid information on is just other riders of note, people you look down the entry list and you're like, well, that person's worth paying attention to, that person's worth paying attention to, this person probably won like a few supercrosses or something.
again, there's about 20 of them. Again,
There is a
you
lot.
look down
There
the
is a
list
lot.
of entries, the riders, and there is about 20 that. There's no, well, all of the riders.
Yeah,
there's no
for me-
slouches,
For
but
me, if I look in the first 50 names, they're all names that
yeah,
we
we
know
all know
from
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
some level of off-road racing,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
discipline, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
It is, yeah. So I think for me, the first one on that list is Ivan Cervantes, just because he won 5 World Championship Enduros.
Yeah.
I think he's lost that edge that he probably had. He lost it the last few years he was in Enduro as well, but you can't count anyone that was that good out.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
Is it a bit weird though? I mean, it's for me because there's that little bunch of guys that came from World Enduro to Rally. There was Mayo, Cervantes,
Aubert.
Rene, Aubert.
Yeah.
Why is it only Mayo that's kind of taken to it?
So I got
So
a theory
well.
on this. Mio and Rene both were really quick, and when they left, they were both still winning.
Okay.
When Aubert and Cervantes left, they'd stopped winning 3 or 4 years earlier.
Mm.
They lost that edge.
Okay,
Maybe it's
yeah.
desire. I don't know what it is. They lost that edge, that desire to push. They'd probably still got the skill, but to
Yeah.
ride that fast, it takes a lot of risk.
Yeah.
They probably lost that. And then Rene hit his head a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
And whether that messes with your mentality or you start to suffer, like your brain just doesn't work from having too many concussions,
Mm.
whatever that reason is, I think that's why because he showed great speed.
He had the speed.
You know,
Yeah.
straight away, but then he had, like, every rally, he had a massive crash, you know, cheekbones and horrible breaks and concussions, and
I
I
think
think that affects you.
I think the
Yeah.
hitting the head thing, you know, it's showing up in a lot of sports now, isn't it?
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I think it is a massive problem. You know, people recover really well from even a broken femur or broken backs, this sort of thing. But the guys that have that kind of crash where they hit their head, saw it with Frattini a few
Never
years
the
ago.
same. Yeah.
Never the same. You know,
Mhm.
big crash, hit his head. Guy had plenty of big crashes through his career. You know, he was a guy that everybody was expecting to be the guy that could challenge Cyril and Coma in that era because he was coming. He was
Yeah,
beating
yeah.
them on a 450 when they were on 690s, and then he hit his head and bomb gone.
Yeah.
And
well,
I think, you know, unfortunately, despite having a helmet on, you hit your head. It just takes that edge away, doesn't it? Whether it's the ability
Yeah.
to see things at speed
Yeah.
or whatever, you can't fix that. You can, you know, confidence is a massive thing, but I don't think. You know, when you break a bone, you can rebuild the confidence. It takes time. But you can. Those guys can. I can't, but those guys can. But I think once you hit your head, it's not a case of rebuilding confidence. You do just seem to actually lose that sharpness,
Mm.
and yeah, it's tragic when that happens.
But I think, and that's why I think he probably retired as well.
Yeah.
Just one too
Yeah.
many.
I think you
Yeah.
had to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another guy talking about enduro riders, Lorenzo Santolino,
Yep.
announced
Yeah.
today that he's going to be doing rallies this year.
Yeah.
And then Dakar next year.
Yeah. And another one from Enduro World that's kind of not super well known, but Armand Monleon.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's not bad, is he?
He's not
Yeah.
bad. Former maybe, you know, top junior level enduro rider, really good.
Yeah.
You know, that same kind of level as other guys that are now factory riders.
Mhm.
And his best results are 10th in Dakar.
Yeah.
So he's kind of got a little bit of
And-
provenness there, you know.
Mm.
And has been training with Laya, with the factory KTM guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they obviously, yeah. So he's worth watching for sure.
Yeah.
We sent him.
Yeah, whatever happens, you know, he ends up in a little group with the front guys, and suddenly sees how to ride the desert at that speed, and in one day he's going to suddenly go, oh, that's how you do it, because at the
Yeah.
moment he's running like
Yeah, I
15th
think so.
fastest guy,
Yeah.
because he hasn't had the chance to ride
Yeah.
with those guys. You
But
know?
we've seen
And
it before when
little switch will
when
go.
guys that have been that level in motocross come to rally, the speed is insane. Like maybe a few years ago, but Danny Laporte, Mike Kudrowski, guys like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Danny Laporte was a hair's away from winning Dakar.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
so
yeah.
yeah, I don't think his talent is any
And
question.
if you think back when he was there was a couple of years there where he was clearly the fastest motocross rider in the world, and he wasn't a crasher. You know, he was solid.
safe,
You know, he wasn't
Yeah.
like sometimes some of those guys are on the edge, but he never was.
Yeah.
I think.
Anyone else?
And a little bit like you said, when you see all the little posts Andrew Shaw puts out, he's just loving
He's
it.
got a new
It's like
passion.
he's just
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
racing again.
Yeah.
He's
He's
really,
so happy.
he's
so
really
excited.
into adventure bikes as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
it's
just
cool.
so
Yeah.
excited to be out there doing it, and
Yeah.
that's beautiful to watch, isn't it?
And if that encourages other American racers or kind of big motocross superstars to come and try it, that can,
And fans.
it
Yeah.
can only be good for the
whole
sport itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyone else?
Well, like I said, there's 50 names there. You can just read through them if you like.
Go to
So,
the top 50, yeah.
Yeah, and so the next, obviously, part of the race of Dakar is about who the guys are, but the real big bit that determines everything is the route. The route
Yes.
is everything. The route is, it determines exactly how the race goes as to who's going to do well and who's not going to do well and who's going to suffer and who's not. And it looks hard.
And I think we're all talking about who's the fast guy and all that, but I agree with you. The route, and now for me, massively in South America, is the weather. The weather's such a different story with that race now. Fiambala is a great example. We all know that Fiambala, when they go through that region in Argentina, can definitely be the most decisive stage on the race. It's usually a bit shorter. I think this year it's only 220 k's. So on paper it looks like one of the easier stages, but for sure that
Definitely
220 k's is like 500 k's in another stage. If it's hot, if it's hot and the sand is dry, and it can be. I've been there twice when it's been like over 45, and the sand is.
They cancelled it for a lot of guys last year.
Yeah.
For that reason, it was too hot.
And the sand gets so soft when it's hot. It's unbelievable. Like you can be slight incline and you can't get your bike to pull third gear. It's ridiculous how difficult it is. Yet, and in other parts of the rally, if it rains, it'll create a nightmare. But there, if it rains,
Heaven.
it's heaven.
Yeah.
It's chalk and cheese. It's then it's like the best 240 k's of your life. There's grip everywhere. You can get up all the hills. You can pull massive roosts and skid around loads. So that those conditions are super important.
Yeah.
And of course, as we've seen the last couple of years, altitude. Best guys in the world, you can fall apart in altitude, and everyone's learning a lot about that now. Everybody's either training at altitude the last month, or you see even privateers. I saw a load of pictures of Miriam Pole this week in her tent.
And if I was going to Dakar right now,
definitely
I
get
would be
one.
sleeping in an altitude tent because it's
Yeah.
horrible. Going to the way they go to altitude is terrible. It's horrible to be a part of. The one nice thing I think that they've fixed in the last few years is that once you go to altitude, you stay there.
Yeah, that's better for sure.
So that's better. But there are still 5 stages this year, over 3,000 meters.
Yeah.
There are still
And it's
5 days.
It's just
of
another
sand.
wild card, isn't it?
Yeah.
With the altitude, it can give some. It might be someone's opportunity to shine on a day because of the rest of the conditions, and they just get hit with altitude that day, and their chance to shine is gone.
What do you think about the change from the previous years where they've gone with 4 days in Peru, which will all be sand, pretty much?
Yep.
And Fiambala. It's a huge amount more sand than they've had in recent years. Do you think that will have a big change?
I think it's great for the race because the sand days and the dune days are the days when, of course, riding ability. Every piece of being good at rally comes to the top. You've got to ride well in the sand. You've got to navigate well. You've got to be a little bit tactical. I think, and people can pass when you're just on pistes with dust. It is like just a sort of a long motocross race. Really, it's very hard for people to actually show their genuine speed. yeah, I think the more of that open desert where you can pick your own line and choose to go the other side of a dune set or through a load of camel grass or round it or whatever, you're making all those decisions all day. I think it's awesome for the race. I think it just makes it what rally should be about, not just following a track. Yeah. I think it's fantastic, and I think most of the competitors, it's that thing of when you're in that situation you complain about it, but actually what you go there for is to ride that stuff,
Yeah, definitely. And so 2 marathon stages for the bike class this year as well. How do you guys think that will? I mean, the last few years the marathon stages have had some pretty epic cock-ups on the way in and out of both of them. I mean, Bereda on one of them managed to snap a set of handlebars, on another one he changed an engine.
Yeah.
There's they shouldn't be as difficult as they are, but they still prove to be really difficult for people to manage. So do you think it's going to have a big effect on the race, or is it just one of those things that's just
it will, but you never know how it's going to affect it. It's pretty much every year there's been some sort of drama.
Happens, I must admit, I don't understand why, because to me the way they do the marathon stage now is like,
oh well, here it comes.
Well, it's not,
back in my day.
It's confusing though, isn't it? Because I think for all the privateers, it doesn't make that much difference, those marathon stages.
To me, it didn't. I didn't do any work on my bike.
Yeah,
Sleep.
And the whole environment where they put the bivouac is now quite nice. You sleep well. The food's all right.
I think you forgot something. Do you not remember sleeping on the floor of a gym in your kit?
Well, yeah, but that was our fault, not the marathon stage's fault. I don't get it unless with the only thing I can see for the factory riders is they haven't got their motorhomes, so they do actually have a night of sleeping out, and the tyre management. That should be the only thing that should be different for those guys. It shouldn't make, in my head, it shouldn't make any difference to them whether it's a marathon stage or not. With one night out, apart from looking after tyres and mousses, because they definitely don't really have to do that anymore. If they're on the stage for 4 or 5 hours and then they're getting a brand new tyre that night, they can push that tyre and mousse to its limit. Whereas if you've got 2 days and maybe you've arguably got to look after that tyre for 1,500 k's, and especially the mousse.
Can they swap wheels with another competitor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
They do it. They normally get their water boys wheel.
Yeah.
And so, is there one stage that you guys are particularly looking forward to, when you're like, or one area where you're like, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens there?
I think straight after the rest day is super decisive. It's the 2 longest days. Two longest days
in Argentina.
In Argentina, and it just always, again, it's another thing that always happens, that people go out hard after
just
the rest
like cycling. Some people come out well and some people come out terrible.
Exactly.
Sure.
And they're long.
And the Bellin stage, is that the same one? It's that same region.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, Toby pushed hard in that one, didn't he? And then they cancelled it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to produce drama again, like that.
Heat. Massive heat. There's the potential. All of that region in Argentina will be very hot.
Yeah.
And what about you, Neil?
Do you know, I've always the later stages are always quite interesting if it's close.
Yeah.
If it's close, then them later stages are going to be really interesting. I'll see how the teams react, team tactics, and how who's up there and what the sort of mentality of them individuals are at that point, because then things can get really interesting. So I'm looking forward to the later stages for sure, but
for me, I'm excited that they're going back to Bolivia again, because Bolivia is always drama. It always rains because it's really high. And it's mountains. It rains, and none of those guys deal well with it. It's carnage. And for me, that I know everybody said is kind of the opinion that Dakar should be a desert race, but it is still desert and it rains 100%, a lot, and they should have to deal with it. And the fact that some of them can't deal with it and they struggle and they do stupid things like drown bikes and puddles.
Well, the best person.
For me, that's the stuff. It shouldn't. You have to deal with that, and I like that drama. I think
absolutely.
And we've already talked about Leia doing well in them conditions.
Yeah, totally. And all the guys that came from enduro will excel in those conditions, and
and there's a hell of a lot of enduro guys in there.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that the terrain should create. In a race like that, the terrain should create the drama. If the race is too easy, like it was 2 years ago, where everybody was just following themselves on tracks, it doesn't create that drama. Nobody can pass. Nobody gets lost. And then last year, it was a different story. The rain caused a lot of other problems, but the race was good to watch. Yeah. I thought people got lost. It was difficult. They struggled. They couldn't hold it together.
As well as all those factory guys, we all like to follow the stories of the dumb beginners that do it like us, and like you said, then when we were there 2 years ago and the weather closed in, and you got like all the Dakar stories in one race. People getting washed down rivers and ended up huddled around someone's fire in their fireplace, and
it makes it for me, that stuff. Even when you're on the inside, that makes it an adventure.
Yeah, that's
and if it was an easy race, it wouldn't be right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's easy to say. I'm sat in quite a comfortable chair in my office with a lovely wooden desk. And I probably would disagree with you like hell if I was sat in the middle of it. But I do think that the guys that are not going there to win, they're going there to see what they can survive.
Yeah.
And the harder it is, the more everybody that goes to Dakar seems to love it.
Yeah.
And segueing neatly into that, Lyndon Poskett is a great example.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That man was never happier than when he did that race with no mechanical assistance and suffered and cried his way to the finish. And I spoke to him afterwards and he was like, that's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Now that's slightly weird, but I think he's right, and I think people like him, the guys that are running between 30th and 100th, are going to be miserable if they get to the end and they're like, oh yeah, it was a bit easy. It happened to you a few years ago. Yeah. You got to the end and you were like, no, that wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly. 2013.
I mean, it was not that hard. He slept for 2 weeks instead of a month afterwards.
Good point. Well made.
But yeah, I think everybody's miserable with that. So for me, that's why I think Bolivia is awesome, because it's cold, it's high. And the riding has the potential to be the hardest riding because, man, it's slippery. Yeah. And rally bikes are terrible in the mud.
Just because it's not the desert and it's not 40 degrees, it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy ride.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but the point is about that is when it is still desert in Bolivia. My point is more having the open space to make the decisions.
Yeah.
And you've still
to
got
make
that.
The bad decisions.
It's hot or cold or dry or wet. It's just you're not following an established dirt road. You know, when you've got the ability to be off piste and make.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, those established dirt roads are amazing to ride, especially in Argentina. The riding is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, I think there's not much else to say there, apart from just the mention of the 3 British riders.
Absolutely.
This needs fixing, there's not enough. But it is Lyndon Poskett, obviously Sam Sunderland, the great British hope, and Max Hunt.
Yeah.
Who we also, did a good job last year. Rode a great result. Made it on the TV with his Austin Powers level poshness. And, Lyndon Poskett is doing something also that totally needs to mention. It's really, really cool. He's taken a film crew with him. He's not taking a mechanic because that would be sensible. He's taking a film crew instead, and they're going to film his misery and upload it to YouTube every single day. I don't know how they're going to do that. That's like pretty mind blowing.
Impressive. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really, really cool thing, and you'll be able to watch it. We'll put a link in the comments to his channel so you can find it. That's it. Otherwise, I think there's not much more to say. We could talk about it forever, but it's probably quite boring. We'll see you on the rest day. Dakar starts on the 6th. I believe this will go out on the not today, tomorrow, Friday. On the Saturday, on the 5th.
Yeah.
This will go out on the 5th. That's Friday. What day is it today?
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday. It will go out on Friday. Dakar starts on Saturday. And we'll see you on the rest day, if we can remember which day that is.
Thanks for watching. Unless we're out riding.
There's a good chance that will also happen. Alright, see you then. Bye.